Well, hello people, and welcome back to some more City Skylines 2 coverage. Hope you're having a wonderful day. It is time now for the 11th dev diary, this time on game progression. So as always, we'll have a look through the feature highlight together, and then we'll have a look at the blog as well.
City building is a journey led by your creativity and ambition. So the decisions you make along the way reflect who you are. To help you.
This is interesting here, isn't it? We're kind of getting a little sample here of small town City Skylines 2. I really like it. I love this like big arterial road going up here. I'm not sure what map this is. This looks like River Delta, so I'm assuming this is New Dollarton. But yeah, a big main street with the trees on it. Kind of cute, smaller dirt roads here. Loving also the addition of the thinner, I guess what we would know them as one unit roads from Cities 1. The kind of smaller suburban ones with no road markings on them. There's a lot about this game we've learned over the last couple of weeks with these dev diaries. Some of it I'm a fan of, some of it really not a fan of. But this kind of small town rural building does look quite nice here. I'm looking forward to doing little towns like this.
You build a city that's true to you. City Skylines 2 puts 20 milestones packed with rewards directly in your path. When you unlock a milestone, you're
You see that tearing there? That terrain tearing? When you place the asset down, you get that huge lump on it. Hoping that that isn't going to be too prevalent again. That was one of the most annoying things about Cities 1. But interesting to get a look at some of the milestones there, wasn't it? And all the different things that come with them.
rewarded expansion permits. Expansion permits allow you to quickly add new map tiles to your city.
So we use expansion permits to unlock map tiles. I'm pretty sure we saw this in a previous dev diary, didn't we? But obviously, this one is confirming the whole game progression side of it. So expansion permits are used to open new tiles, whereas the gold star is a development point, and that's going to be used to unlock city services.
But this isn't just about real estate. Use expansion permits to release tiles with the specific attributes you need to see your plans through. Milestones also reward you with development points. You need development points to add city services, the bedrock of a functioning metropolis. But just adding them isn't enough. The needs of citizens will change as the city expands. So
we're getting a good look at this development tech tree for the first time. I'm a big RTS gamer, so I love kind of tech trees and branching development pathways. It's a lot of fun in games, and I'm happy to see something like this added into a city simulator. It has to mean something though. It can't just be for like aesthetic purposes. It has to have depth and choice to it, otherwise it's just meaningless and you maybe have to wait, I don't know, another 30 minutes of gameplay time to unlock the path that you didn't choose to take. I think if development trees are going to be quite shallow, there's no real point implementing them, so I'm interested to see how City's tech tree is going to feel here.
You'll need to keep developing city services to keep pace. Your development points make it happen. The city services you choose to add.
So see the big airport being plopped there as well, so clear that we have moved away from the airport's DLC functionality of placing terminals and your own runways and taxiways. I'm quite disappointed by that. I really liked the airport's DLC system compared to just plopping airports in. It's going to lead to us all having the same airport, isn't it? Which is a real shame, but you know, I'm assuming we might get an airport's DLC for Cities 2 at some point down the line.
How you develop them, and just how advanced you make them.
So this here is interesting, isn't it? We have a look at the public transport one where we see you've got basic transportation services. I'm assuming that's going to mean things like buses and taxis, because they're not included elsewhere along the tree. So we can then branch off into trains, which then splits again into trams and toward an international airport, whereas air is also a branch off of basic transportation services. That is also a sub-requirement for the international airport as well. And then we also see trams and subway there too. I'm really happy to see that trains seem to be unlocked much more sooner, because it's going to allow us to plan train lines in as the city grows. One of my biggest pet peeves about the milestone progression system from Cities 1 is that you didn't unlock trains until even you'd after unlocked airports, which makes no sense in the development of an actual city, right? So really happy to see trains as a much earlier unlock in CS2. Big fan of that.
And just how advanced you make them all make a big impact on the character of your city. This is how it works. Each city service has a development tree. The nodes on the development tree.
Have a look at the park one here as we've got basics, park and rec services, park maintenance, which then branches into large and sports parks, which then combine to make large sports parks. That's a bit of a confusing one there, isn't it? And then that actually goes off into tourist attractions, being its own separate category now, which is interesting.
Are more and more advanced buildings that level up the city service in a specific way. As you unlock these nodes, that city service.
I'm not sure if these sims here in the foreground, this could just be me reading too much into it, but they kind of sat wearing a little baggy clothes and their clothes are torn. And their hair is looking a little rougher as well. I'm wondering if these are actually some of the homeless sims that we're seeing here as well. Not that I'm making any judgments or presumptions about homeless people, but if you're going to look at the textures of these sims in the foreground here, it could represent the homeless because we know it's a mechanic now.
Service becomes more sophisticated and specialized. When you first add a city service, you're at the base of the development tree, so you get the basics. Like when you add the city service public transportation, you get buses and taxis. Basic stuff. Spend development points to unlock nodes further along the development tree. In this case, you might invest in trains to move more people more efficiently. Or you might go in a totally new direction by taking to the skies. It's all up to you. Remember, the further you go along a development tree, the more development points you'll need to cough up. And they don't exactly rain from the sky. You might not.
So let's have a look at some of the road stuff here. We can go into roundabouts, which seems strange that that's a development point. Surely you should just be able to draw your own roundabout, kind of weird that that's in the tech tree. Then we come into advanced road services, which breaks down to larger roads and highways, intersections being its own thing on the development branch as well. Before the Grand Bridge, which I'm assuming is going to be the thing that comes with the DLC. Parking areas is definitely its own thing. We can also specialize into an underground parking building. And then an automated parking building as well. Seems quite high-tech, doesn't it?
Add a city service at all, or you might not.
Have a little look at the power here too. Got basic electricity services. Splits off into gas, then coal, then nuclear. Then geothermal power branches from emergency battery stations. And that goes into solar and hydroelectric power from there as well. I thought nuclear would have been in the renewables side of things, because it's not nearly as bad as coal and gas, is it? At least, I think. I'm not a nuclear physicist, but I think that's right.
Develop it very much. Others, you'll take all the way. Once you add a city service and unlock nodes on its development tree using development points, it's time to open your wallet. To actually pay for the construction of city service buildings, building extensions, and operational upgrades, you need cash. Don't worry, you can cover it with the monetary rewards you get when you unlock each milestone. By now, you're probably asking, how do I unlock milestones? It's all about expansion points.
Interesting. So we're now getting XP, or I guess expansion points as they're referring to them here. So previously milestones in cities, of course, were tied to population numbers. So interesting to see how that's changed now. And also how cheesable this is going to be as well, because we can see as they're playing the game here, and we'll cover it later on as well, is that they're getting XP for us doing different things like population increasing, placing new services. So if we're constantly placing services and deleting them, is that going to allow us to endlessly cheese this new XP system? It's going to be interesting, isn't it?
Or XP. You'll rack up XP passively and actively.
So see it here, can't we? Population increased, we're getting 64 XP. Citizen happiness, 55 XP. So can we cheese it?
Passive XP are awarded up to 16 times during each in-game day.
Okay, so passive XP can be awarded up to 16 times. I think that wording is quite important there, isn't it? Sounds like they have put a cap over it to stop it from being super cheesable.
They're awarded as your city's population and the happiness level of that population increases. That's why smooth-running cities that foster the...
Just kind of noticing here as well, the roads are very quiet, aren't they? Everything's really chill. I'm not sure if it's just like a level of detail thing here where we can't see the cars, but really quiet.
The well-being of citizens makes steady progress toward the next milestone. Active XP are doled out right when you make bold investments in your city. Watch them rack up when you plop a signature building or invest in core infrastructure like the city's road network. In City Skylines 2, milestone rewards empower you to unleash your creativity and ambition on the path to building a city that only you can.
That beautiful rail yard as well. This is New Dollarton, isn't it? Really like the look of what is a Cities Skylines 2 vanilla rail infrastructure. Night and day between Cities 1, isn't it? Really like this shot here. And that shot is indeed at the end of the video, so let's hop into the blog now and see if we can pick out anything else there, shall we? As we glance over the blog here, we'll pick out some key talking points of what's been discussed. So the milestones, as always, continue to unlock new cities, services, policies, and info views, but how we unlock them is different now, so it's no longer about hitting population counts now. It's all about getting XP, or expansion points as the game refers to them. And the development tree is an entirely new feature which exists for each service and brings a new level of customization to game progression. Both systems are tied together as milestones give you points to spend in your development tree. So we mentioned about those expansion points, or XP as we'll refer to it from now until forever. So passive expansion points are awarded 16 times a day. But that's interesting that's referring to it as passive. If it's, I guess, manual expansion point or something that we're doing to trigger them, does that mean it can be more than 16 times a day? Because I think if there's no cap on that XP per day, it's going to become quite a cheesable, exploitable system, I think. I can imagine in a couple months' time when we're all playing Cities 2, we're going to be talking about XP cheese, if you like. So we can see that active expansion points are granted immediately as a result of actions we take, such as placing or upgrading a service building, constructing a signature building, or expanding the city's road network. So if it is a result of actions that we take, such as placing a service building, does that mean I can just continually place service buildings to farm XP? We can see that on the thresholds to get to Big Town, it's 46,000 XP, which is a large amount considering like you look at some of the passive XP. For citizen happiness, it was like 55 they got, wasn't it, in the video? So I guess you need to do a lot of cheesing to get this to work properly, but interesting to see how manipulatable this mechanic is going to be. So we now have 20 milestones to unlock from Tiny Village all the way to Megalopolis, and each one gives us a mix of monetary rewards, development points, and expansion permits, as well as access to new city services, policies, and management options. As your city grows, you will need to answer more of the citizens' needs, of course, such as public transport and communication, and you also gain access to districts and can customize areas of the city using policies. It's going to be interesting to see how hard-hitting policies are this time, because I think outside of a few useful ones like encourage cycling and maybe NIMBY from Cities 1, policies didn't really have that much of an impact, at least not something you really noticed, at least in my experience of playing Cities. I know we all play the game very differently, but policies are never something I really found a vast amount of use out of. And of course, with each new milestone, we'll also get new zone types, which will help us grow our towns. So when we unlock a new service through a milestone, we only unlock its basic building and features along with its corresponding development tree. This is where we'll spend our development points that unlock with the new milestones. And points can be spent as soon as we receive them, or we can save them later if we're not sure what we want to expand on yet. That's good that it's not forcing you to spend it as you hit the milestone, because you might not entirely know how you want to develop the city out yet. So I like that that's in there. So I've mentioned this a few times, especially when we find out about this development tree and basically new style of game progression. So it goes on to say here that you may want to unlock the wastewater treatment plant to avoid polluting your surface water. Or maybe you want to access harbours to benefit from the map's seaways, or provide your citizens with more sources of leisure with sports parks and stuff like that. This is one thing I'm quite excited for about Cities 2, because I think just because of this sentence here, it's going to lead us to all having quite different gameplay experiences, isn't it? Because if someone spent development points on the third milestone on air travel, whereas I, for example, go and spend it on trains, that's really going to lead us to different solutions as to how we start establishing our public transport network, isn't it? That's in theory. Of course, in practice, it couldn't come out like that. They might just spend it on air, and then a couple of milestones later, you already got the train one, and then you're basically caught up to where I was in my development. This is what I mean about the development tree having to have depth and sustenance to it. I think if it's just there for the sake of having it, and it isn't really thought out or impactful upon the gameplay, then there's no point in including it. But again, we can't really judge that until we've played it and compared it to other cities. Which, by the way, if you're not in our Discord server, please do come and join. We have a really active Cities Skylines 2 channel where we're speculating every week about these dev diaries, so please come and join the conversation in the Discord as well. So each development tree is divided into tiers and has a varying number of nodes to unlock. The first tier includes the basic buildings and functions of the service, and this node is automatically unlocked when you gain access to the service. Okay, so that first node on the development tree is going to open up for us once we hit its corresponding milestone. So as an example of that, when we first unlock public transportation, you have access to buses and taxis, as well as things like the stops and the line tour, with subsequent tiers offering more advanced options, which will cost more in development points to unlock, but provide you with new options. So how you choose to spend your development points shapes your city. Unlocking more transportation options early on allows you to integrate them as your city grows, while advanced power plants can provide the citizens with cheap and reliable electricity. It's so cool to say, we can choose to go down public transport or maybe go to a more advanced power plant for cheap and reliable electricity. I know there's a lot more in-depth simulation stuff now with the resources and how pollution and whatnot works, but neglecting an entire public transport network just to avoid having to place another temporary power plant doesn't sound like a great trade-off for me. Public transport would be much more important, whereas if I'm going to run out of power because my little power meter has slid into the yellow, I'm just going to place another power plant. I don't think that's really going to change the development path of my city. I don't know, that's just me. Maybe other people would find greater satisfaction out of that system. Well, that does indeed do it for today. Really short and sweet. Thoroughly looked at in today's one for game progression. I like the new XP system. I think that's really cool rather than forcing it into population milestones. It's going to be interesting to see just how exploitable that system is, isn't it? I also do like the fact that we have included a tech or progression development tree, whatever you want to call it. I'm a huge fan of these systems from, I've mentioned earlier, I'm a huge RTS gamer, so I love things like this and Civilization and Total War and whatnot. It's always a lot of fun, but it has to have sustenance to it. If it's there just for the sake of having it and it has no real impact, and, if someone chooses to specialize in air, does it really change their city? If the next milestone, they're going to get more development points to just immediately get trains, and then already you have both types of public transport, whilst neglecting maybe the development points into a power plant that slightly reduces the air pollution. Again, it's really hard to call, isn't it, when we haven't played it? But it looks pretty cool from the gameplay we've seen today. I'm hoping that this development tree is actually impactful, and it is going to change how each of us shape our city, because that's their big tagline and their whole marketing point with this, is that everyone's city is going to be different. Will it though? We'll have to wait and see, of course. Let me know what you're thinking of this. Anything here that's really tickled the pickle for the final time, or anything here that's really ground the gears. Let me know as well what you think of the introduction of these development trees into cities. Is it something that you're pleased to see, or something that you wish would have stayed in the realm of the real-time strategy folks and all those grand strategy people? But I'll leave you with the trailer to run one last time again. I'm sure you'll see some Cities Skylines 2 content from me in the foreseeable. But otherwise, I'd like to thank you all so much for watching. And as always, let's keep that Cities 2 conversation going down below as well. But I'll shut up and leave it there. I'd like to thank you all so much for watching. And as always, enjoy the rest of your day.
City building is a journey led by your creativity and ambition. So the decisions you make along the way reflect who you are. To help you build a city that's true to you, Cities Skylines 2 puts 20 milestones packed with rewards directly in your path. When you unlock a milestone, you're rewarded expansion permits. Expansion permits allow you to quickly add new map tiles to your city. But this isn't just about real estate. Use expansion permits to release tiles with the specific attributes you need to see your plans through. Milestones also reward you with development points. You need development points to add city services, the bedrock of a functioning metropolis. But just adding them isn't enough. The needs of citizens will change as the city expands, so you'll need to keep developing city services to keep pace. Your development points make it happen. The city services you choose to add, how you develop them, and just how advanced you make them all make a big impact on the character of your city. This is how it works. Each city service has a development tree. The nodes on the development tree are more and more advanced buildings that level up the city service in a specific way. As you unlock these nodes, that city service becomes more sophisticated and specialized. When you first add a city service, you're at the base of the development tree, so you get the basics. Like when you add the city service public transportation, you get buses and taxis. Basic stuff. Spend development points to unlock nodes further along the development tree. In this case, you might invest in trains to move more people more efficiently. Or you might go in a totally new direction by taking to the skies. It's all up to you. Remember, the further you go along a development tree, the more development points you'll need to cough up, and they don't exactly rain from the sky. You might not add a city service at all, or you might not develop it very much. Others you'll take all the way. Once you add a city service and unlock nodes on its development tree using development points, it's time to open your wallet. To actually pay for the construction of city service buildings, building extensions, and operational upgrades, you need cash. Don't worry, you can cover it with the monetary rewards you get when you unlock each milestone. By now, you're probably asking, how do I unlock milestones? It's all about expansion points, or XP. You'll rack up XP passively and actively. Passive XP are awarded up to 16 times during each in-game day. They're awarded as your city's population and the happiness level of that population increases. That's why smooth-running cities that foster the well-being of citizens make steady progress toward the next milestone. Active XP are doled out right when you make bold investments in your city. Watch them rack up when you plop a signature building or invest in core infrastructure like the city's road network. In City Skylines 2, milestone rewards empower you to unleash your creativity and ambition on the path to building a city that only you can.